Everybody, hope you're well. Hope you're having a good week. So yes, page of a sheaf even of professional notes with me today. Just wanted to catch up a little bit on Maker Central. Of course, we've had a bit of news from Kreg, which I want to chat about very quickly as well. I'll probably talk more about that at the weekend because there's lots to say about that. If you don't know, Kreg have just announced the Edge, their portable loose tenon jointer, also known as not a domino. They managed to produce a complete 17-minute video or thereabouts and not mention the word domino or Festool once. Anyway, Maker Central. Yeah, it was a good show. I enjoyed it. Maker Central's always been a bit of a something for everyone sort of show. It's not... Probably didn't help that the early sponsors were all... They have a main show sponsor. And the early ones were all woodwork related. First year or two was Triton. Then it was Hitachi, Hikoki. I think they straddled the year that they had the name change. And then they started getting Vectric, I think, has been the main show sponsor since then. Vectric, the CNC software company, British company as well, which is good. So yeah, it's never been a woodworking show, but there's always been woodworking there. It's never been a tool show, but there's always been tool companies there. You know, it's kind of the something for everyone show. And this year was no different. I think they did change hands. Nick Zametti, who founded the whole idea, sold a controlling interest to a company that organises craft fair type events. And that shows, and I think they swung a bit too far in that direction, certainly last year, maybe the year before as well. But this year they seem to have sort of regained a bit of ground. It was certainly more interesting, I think, for woodworkers. But again, it's not a woodworking show. Lots and lots of lasers on show, lots of 3D printing, CNC stuff around there, and all the usual craft type bits and pieces as well. In terms of woodworking related stands, obviously Trend was there. I was on the Trend stand with Mark from Start Making Woodworking. Very busy stand. I think I sold 3 of their big CNC machines while I was there, just sort of pointing people in the right direction. I think they were willing. They were of a mind to be buying a CNC machine. I'm not a super salesman or anything. But Trend were there, obviously. Record Power were there. Arbortac were there. SawStop were there. SawStop was good to see them. Again, shame the likes of Axminster and Lumberjack have been there for a few years. Obviously, Axminster have got a few issues of their own. But for somebody with a more accessible, let's say, range of tools like Lumberjack, because they don't have a showroom, I don't think, or if they do, they've only got the one. Those sort of shows are really good for people to get hands on and have a proper look at that kind of thing. Same with the SawStop. I was invited by Michael from SawStop, along with Mark and Jacob Bell, Winterton Furniture. Mark and Jacob both have the SawStop contractor saws. So I was invited on stage to chat about that, just sort of off the cuff, and I got to do the sausage test myself. Now I've witnessed the sausage test. I've experienced it at a demo, and if you've only seen the videos, I would encourage everybody to go whenever there's a show. SawStop are doing the rounds, because when that thing fires, wow, it's quite violent. It's quite sort of extreme. Really goes with a bang. When you are actually pushing the sausage through, it's like 10 times. It really is. I was going to say in your face. You know what I mean? Very impressive tech. I'm at the end of that. Mark said he really, really wants you to have a SawStop, doesn't he? Me and Michael from SawStop have a bit of history, so we'll see. I will never say never, but we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, good to see them there, and of course, good to see everybody else at Maker Central too. Maker Central's always been more of a social thing for me, apart from one year where I had to be a bit salesy just because of the way things worked out. So yeah, good to see, getting a chance to meet with some of the viewers of the videos, and of course some of the members too. Very good. Had a very good response to the box summer, the new joint jig. A lot of people very interested in that. A lot of people wanted to place pre-orders then and there. So I think that's going to be a winner. So I need to get that one out pronto. I've been thinking about. I've got my big 3D printer running again. More on that another day probably. And I've been thinking about the square enough 3D corner square clamping guides. I've even managed to brand some up as square enough 3D. And I've made a couple of changes to those. I may still make a couple of changes further, but my idea has been to put a corner clamp in. The original square enough guides always had a hole in the corner, so you could get a clamp in there to pull things into a corner if you needed to. And I realised that would actually be fairly easy to add in to these, and also would probably increase their stiffness a little bit as well. So now we've got corner access. I might consider putting an external one in so that you can clamp onto it a bit more readily. I'll see about that. And there's a couple of other little things as well that I might do, but at the moment there's a bit of a gap in there. You can't get a clamp head in there other than one of the rail clamps. And if you wanted to use a normal clamp on that, it would probably bow a little bit. But what you can do is just slip in a bit of something or other into that space, and then you could actually use a normal clamp on it. So quite pleased with that idea. That is actually a piece of 22mm. I'm going to rejig it, rework it, so that that's a piece of 18mm, and we'll see if that helps. I think that a piece of 18mm in there might be a bit more readily available to most people rather than a piece of 22mm. But yeah, that's coming along. Again, as soon as this is finalised, I'll put these files in the forum for everybody to have a play with. Duncan was asking about screws for built-in wardrobes. I'm recommending Spax M-Cut, and he was asking about assembling them initially and then disassembling them to take on site, to install, to reassemble. I had good results using Spax M-Cut in that way, but I would recommend not driving them in fully, and I'll show you what I mean by that. Give me a second, I'll set up a little demo. Alrighty, so I've got a couple of bits of 18mm just butted up on the bench here. Just going to drill a pilot hole through here. And we'll just pop a Spax M-Cut. Screw into there. And as you see, that pilots in, self-countersinks really well. I'll also do a one there. This time separate countersink in, and then I'm just going to run this in. Just nip it off enough so that it holds. What will happen is If I take this one out, that'll wind out absolutely fine. You can do that a couple of times. Whereas if I did that with this one, there you go. It'll pull that out completely when it comes, as opposed to so yeah, that's the difference. No major problems with Conformat screws. They're a little awkward. I find they're quite fat to go into 18mm. But if you can countersink your pilot holes rather than relying just on the self-countersinking, I've had no issues dry fitting them effectively in the workshop, pre-assembling just to check everything, and then taking them apart and fitting them for real on site. I've got a lot to say, as you can imagine, about the Kreg thing. Let me just clear a few things up, and then I'll be back with you in a sec. Okay, so Kreg have announced the Kreg Edge, a loose tenon jointing system named after a browser, apparently. It's the first. Obviously, everybody knew these were coming. We didn't quite know when. I've had an overview, an outline of a video where I'm considering where the domino competition might come from, which manufacturers. I'll confess, Kreg was not on that list, and yet they're first out of the blocks with their proposed offering. Can't buy it yet. No, they're opening pre-orders in the fall, so autumn. I've put my name down as an interested party to get early access to all that, because it's very interesting. I certainly don't need one. I've got all the dominoes, including the new cordless. But it's interesting. It's the first of its type to come along, and competition is good. Competition is healthy, drives innovation, keeps everybody honest. Let's see if it's actually competition, or is it just a Me Too cheaper version. It's very light on hard details. I've been through the launch video many times and got as much information from it as I could. It's very well priced, very aggressively priced. $499 complete. It's a cordless only tool, which would naturally do well globally because you're not worried about mains voltages. But Kreg do not have a great track record when it comes to releasing their cordless products globally. Many American commentators in the YouTube comments expressed surprise that I haven't included the Kreg AccuCut system in any of these sort of plunge saw bench roundups that I've done. That's because we can't buy them. I don't think they're available outside the US. Certainly not available in the UK. I don't think they're available in Europe either. So, Kreg appear to be very happy only serving the North American market, and that's where they are sending their sights for the Kreg Edge loose tenon system. They may consider other geographies, but it's at the moment, at launch, it's going to be relentlessly, purely cordless and relentlessly purely North America. But $499 for a complete bundle, 1 battery charger, narrow stock guides, stability base, so like a Bigfoot kind of thing, 6mm cutter as standard, and a sample pack of 6mm tenons. Hey, there's an idea. I wish I'd thought of that. Bearing in mind that Kreg is the company that are trying to flog you the drill-powered mortise mate, where you put a drill in and you waggle a handle back and forth to make a loose tenon. They're trying to sell you that for $299. $499 looks like an absolute bargain in comparison. So the companies that I thought would be competing in the domino market, let's call it, the DeWalt and Makita are kind of a given, I think. I don't think we'll see any of the smaller independents having a go at this, but DeWalt and Makita, I thought Bosch, Milwaukee, and Metabo might have a go, but having looked at their product lineups, Bosch, Milwaukee, and Metabo don't actually have biscuit jointers. They don't have any kind of jointing systems at all. So, yeah, might have been wrong with that. And obviously, Kreg with the pocket oil system and the mortise mate have their eyes on all that sort of jointing type stuff. I did not expect Mafel or Lamello to be competing in this. They would probably argue that they're already competing. They already have competing products. Mafel with the Duodala, and Lamello with the Zeta, of course. It is what it is. Yeah. So lots to consider with this Kreg. I would say I've put my name down for early access to pre-ordering as and when it comes, as and when it's available. I suspect they won't let me have one because they are only selling to North America. And so maybe I'll have to borrow somebody's address to have it delivered to and work out the shipping from somebody to me. Yeah, we'll have a chat about that in due course. But yeah, that's where we are for this midweek. Thank you very much, everybody. Yeah, I'm going to crack on, get some more of these printed with a narrower middle, and we'll go from there. Yeah, a few more thoughts on that and everything else at the weekend. But for now, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll see you at the weekend. All right, take care.